Hello and welcome to People's Politics and Power on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television, AIT. My name is Okiri Agbonsuremi. Our quest for an egalitarian Nigerian society based on justice and fair play continues as we examine the political stability and the federal structure. The mistrust, the perceived injustice in some parts of the country, and the agitation for the Republic of Biafra, amongst other tendencies, for our unity caused to question the state of the Nigerian nation. Now, how has Nigerian federal structure as it is contributed to this agitation and the uneasy atmosphere? Certainly, there must be a way out of this quagmire. In essence, what are the ingredients for political stability? In what ways can the federal structure be at ease with the other federal states that make up the federation? This is the issue for discourse on People's Politics and Power.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, Politics, and Power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
It's time to meet our guest, Dr. Paddy Njoku. He is the President and Director General of the International Institute of Leadership and Governance. He is an experienced gentleman as far as the national question is concerned. Together, we will be looking at the political stability and the federal structure on the program today. Thank you very much for joining me on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Now, there are a lot of issues throwing up so many things, and people have said we must go back. Nigerian federal structure has been a very, very touchy one, and you can aptly represent a voice, a big voice for the Southeast in this entire matter if you were given the subject to talk about. Now, how do you situate the various components, the nationalities? I bet we talk about the Biafran agitation in the structure that we have today.
Well, I thank you for having me here. It's also necessary to let people know that I am a chartered mediator and conciliator. Why is it important? It is important because we believe that in every life there must be conflicts. Conflicts of choice, conflicts of priorities, conflicts of interests. Once a person is alive, the person must have conflicts.
So conflict is part of...
It's part of nature. It's part of life. Once a nation is alive, there must be conflicts. I mean, a simple example, you see what happens between the executive and the legislature over the budget and so on and so forth. It's not necessarily a war, but is a play of interests. This person wants this interest first, the other person says no. Now, in fact, the major part of our problem in the nation called Nigeria is the inability to master and manage conflicts. It has always been there. More so for a country, a nation that was created by fiat.
Yes.
In the first place.
Well, there were no referendum.
Exactly.
There were no collective
discussion
table.
or bargaining.
Yeah.
It was by fiat. That normally would generate conflict.
So at the beginning of Nigeria,
yes,
from 1914
yes,
to independence,
yes,
where they have this foundation.
Exactly. A foundation was laid for conflicts. It's necessary to know this because they didn't bring me and you together to discuss how we would stay as a family. We were now put together as a family. Naturally, it will generate conflicts. From there, of course, the conflicts arose. The elections, the 1965 elections that people questioned and said, no, you see, we don't agree here with it. The next thing, military coup. The military coup by fiat. This must be done. People died. The counter coup, the war. So at each stage, you see
a multiplication of all the interests and the conflicts.
Of the interests and the conflicts. Then, from the 4 regions we had, the next thing we got, 12 states.
By fiat.
By fiat. People were even put in states they think they don't belong, you know. People were grouped together, whether you like it or not, this is now your state. From there, from 12 to 19. From 19 to 21. From 21 to 36. And then the Federal Capital Territory. So we have always handled things by fiat. Then we created local governments. Each creation
created its own pockets
created its problems.
Conflict, yes.
And people are now, this is normal that after so many years of democratic rule, people start questioning
some of the things that we have done.
fiats.
Is that the location where we are now?
Yeah. Why do you have so many local governments in this place? Okay? And we have so many in this
So
place.
where
do you have so many? Why do you have so many states in this place and we have so many?
Where did we miss the point?
We missed the point exactly in 1966.
1966.
Yes.
That was at the point of the first coup.
Yeah, the first coup. When those
What should have happened?
well, those young men, these are people who were trained to fight wars, not necessarily trained for governance. This is the first faux pas, as the French would call it, the first false step. They got involved in governance.
Politics.
In governance, for which they were not equipped. Governance is an intricate matter.
Sorry, I heard that what probably we would have done.
Yes.
I've had this suggestion that what we would have done that 1966, if it is agreed that that was actually where we took the first step.
Yes.
What should have happened is to work on what can we do to agree to live together.
Yes.
I remember even the discussions that were on the Aburi Accord, you remember.
Yes.
What do we do with this nation?
Exactly.
Was that the point that we should have held our own conference to decide what to do with the nationalities that make up Nigeria?
Right. You hit the nail at the head. If we had made a mistake of having a military coup, and it was now going to lead us to self-destruction, and we had the opportunity of coming together in Aburi to say, look, how do we sort this thing out? That opportunity should have been expanded and should not have been missed. But
of course, you know that there was a desperation to keep Nigeria one.
Yes.
And that anything that I have read the flow from the Aburi meeting, the Aburi Accord.
Yes.
I've seen some elements of how do we unite together, even though a little loosely, but we still have a federal structure.
A federation.
Yeah.
You understand? Now, as you said, the question was, how do we live together? Since that little opportunity came in, we should have expanded it. When we missed it, we now decided to keep Nigeria together by force. Now that we are running a democracy, where you are free,
express yourself.
Exactly, you are free to express yourself. I'm free to express myself. The other person is free
so
to
the
express
issues
themselves.
are coming up.
The issues are
Now
coming up.
let's come back.
All the things we swept under the carpet
They are coming
as
up.
a result of fiat. We are saying sorry. Okay, that's why.
Now,
how
how do you describe the Biafra agitation that is recurring now?
Yes.
Considering the fact that what they have not done now is actually to take up arms against the government.
Yes.
The agitation has been on everybody coming, and they shut down the whole of Southeast just recently.
Yes.
How do you describe the agitation?
Let me tell you how you describe it. I saw the war. I lost part of my education time
During the war.
During the war. I suffered a great and irreparable loss because I couldn't graduate with my mates on the other side of the divide. I couldn't marry when I should marry. My children didn't come to this world when they should come. So when you tell me about this, I said,
your perception is different.
Yeah, please, let's wait a bit. But okay. For the child born in 1970,
1973, 1974, those who are young.
Of course, and you say don't teach them history, they don't even know the details of what happened. It's difficult for you today to tell them, no, don't think this way.
So Biafra in the mind of the elders like you is different from the Biafra in the minds of...
Naturally, these people, you see, if we at that time in 1970 said, okay, let's agree, no victor, no vanquished, the three
Let us come back to one, yeah.
Let's come back to one. Whether you like it or not, internally, you knew something happened in the past and something went wrong. But for an innocent child who has come in to this world, who wants to do certain things, you tell him, no, you can't do it because somewhere along the line, your grandparents or your parents or whoever was defeated, even though there was no victor, no vanquished.
Yes.
He starts, he can't understand it.
This
is at the root of the feeling of these young men.
Yes.
Okay? They don't understand certain things.
Now, how do we bridge the gap between your kind of understanding, those who were matured enough to understand the war, who felt the pain of the war,
yes,
who also saw the emergence of the Biafra and the Nigeria being reconciled back to Nigeria? You saw it. How do you bridge the gap between those of you who have a different perspective of Biafra and those younger elements who did not understand what you went through? How do we bridge the gap?
Very interesting question. At the end of the war, we said, at the end of the Civil War, we said reconciliation, rehabilitation,
and
reconstruction. Instead of reconstruction, social infrastructure has continued getting more and more dilapidated. Mind you, it's not only in the entity called Biafra in quotes.
Which one of those three arrows was more important?
Well, today you see that we have had some sort of devastation in the Northeast, for example.
Yes.
And we are saying, look, let's reconstruct the place so that the people catch up with the rest of the country.
That was not done.
Now, in Biafra, for example,
yes,
where there was massive bombing.
Deliberate bombing.
Deliberate bombing of infrastructure. I tell you, when we were young, during that time, we used to cut palm fronds to cover roofs of houses so that they wouldn't catch the attention of the bombers. Okay?
That reconstruction was not done.
No.
Reconciliation.
It wasn't done.
Was reconciliation done?
Reconciliation is, you are free to move everywhere. That's why I'm here now. That's why you are here. Everybody is mixing. But somewhere along the line, there is still a feeling, a perception of discrimination. Okay? So
a perception of discrimination.
Yes. So when these young people ask, why is this like this, we say, well, just calm down. Naturally. So we have the responsibility, and when I say we, it's not just we, the older people from that side.
The older generation, yeah.
But we, as a people, as a Nigerian people, like I said, we must have capacity for conflict resolution.
Now,
we must be able to bring these people together to say, sorry, if this has happened this way, it might be this is what can be done, so that we move on. We move on as a country. But if people live a life that reminds them every day, look, Nigeria is a polygamous family. Pure and simple.
Now, can we go back?
Let me finish my sentence, please.
Okay, sir.
In a polygamous family, you don't treat the children of a certain mother
differently from
from other mothers, naturally they develop a mindset. You don't let the children, because they are your children, even if you don't like their mother as much as the other wife, they are your children, they are your blood. You have to reassure them that, look, I brought you into this world. This is part of what is.
Now can we go back to how do we bridge that gap between your understanding and their understanding?
We have to do a lot of confidence building. We have to explain, but not just explain verbally. We also have to show examples. Okay? We have to show examples. I was reading what somebody was posting the other day. It's okay. If you had to do Third Mainland Bridge, I'm very proud of that bridge.
Yes.
Okay? Each time I'm in Lagos and I take it, I say, these are monuments that show a country. I've traveled around the world. I see things. I see great monuments that prove to you that these are a great people. Good. You had to do it. And seamlessly it was done. Okay? The second Niger Bridge now, to do it, it starts from the... So these things create perceptions in the minds of these people. So even when we talk...
We don't act it.
We don't act it. They look at you as, you are just deceiving them.
Well, let's enlarge it. Let's enlarge it. We'll be coming back to the issue of the agitation in the South, but let's enlarge it. From your perspective as somebody who is working at the level of Director General of the Institute for Leadership and Governance, and you also have experience in conflict resolution.
Yes.
Now, is there injustice? How do you see the perceived injustice, or is injustice real in the land? Yeah. Because it's not just the IPOB or everybody is complaining.
No, I tell you that since you have given people the opportunity to start expressing themselves freely, you must expect these expressions. The next thing is you must have the capacity to listen to them. You must assuage the feelings. It's not only in IPOB and Masabara. There are agitations. Nigeria, in fact, there's a list I made of Nigerian plagues, not Nigerian pledge. The plagues, the illnesses that are plaguing this single country called Nigeria. They are multiple. And so people are ill at ease. And of course, mind you, part of what is also causing this problem is that since I told you about the coup and the war, the next misfortune we had was the oil boom, which turned into oil doom, and which made people to stop working, and everybody is spending. It's coming to Abuja to collect something, and so we run a feeding bottle economy, and whoever is holding that feeding bottle now controls the others. This is why it has become so acrimonious. Okay, so every part of the country is feeling agitated. Why am I getting this and not getting that? And that's why you see the issue of resource control and all that and that. Am I really getting enough?
So there's this perception that there's this injustice.
If we were busy working as we used to work, most people who join in some of these agitations may not even join.
Because they'll be busy.
They'll be busy. And that's when you would use your God-given resources that are lying between these two ears of yours to produce. But unfortunately, from 1970, when we discovered the boom, we have all down tools, and we're now looking towards Abuja. And that's another problem, the structure, as you said. Abuja is the one that decides.
Now it takes me to let's go back to the issues that are, now we're talking about the structure itself.
Yes.
The Aburi Accord recommended a confederation.
Yes.
It talked about a nation that is united by the nationalities that it form, and then we have a center.
A sort of loose federation.
Loose federation that will not have this feed the bottle kind of structure that we have now, where a unitary system of government is what we are practicing under a federal structure. Now, what are your own takes on this?
Well, my take is that I told you earlier that there were mistakes. When the army took over, they decided to run a unitary system of government. Okay? Everybody has to bow to the center, and the center has to feed everybody. Mind you, the North was doing so very well as a region. The West, some of these things we are bickering over now never existed.
Because they were busy.
No, because people were busy producing. I mean, look at the The Obafemi Awolowo University. In the West, people were busy building their university. Ahmadu Bello would, and let me tell you one other thing that we tend to ignore. The Sardauna of Sokoto himself, was the premier of the entire North. Running all these things, going up and down, founding universities, Northern Nigeria Development Corporation, and so on and so on, single-handedly. No deputy premier. There was a governor who was more or less ceremonial. Now, today that same territory is being run by 19 governors, with 19 deputy governors, with 19 governments.
States Assembly.
With States Assembly, that's what I mean by government.
Yeah,
in fact, in Nigeria, we have 811 governments and chief executives of governments. What this man alone was doing, if you count the number of people doing it now, you can't believe it. So these are all part of the problem. And so everybody feels that, okay, the more governments you have, the more access you have to the common tier. Okay? And why should you have more access to the common tier than I should have? And conflict generates itself. Now, the structure we had before we got into this mess did not generate as many conflicts as the present one. Today, the executive president is like a demigod. He appoints. You can't actually quantify the number of appointments he can make. Yeah, but because we have concentrated this power into a unitary form in Abuja, Abuja becomes a very serious center of conflict.
We'll be coming to take a look at some of the flow from the unitary system that appears to have the dominance in the last couple of decades in Nigeria. Paddy Njoku is the Director General of the International Institute of Leadership and Governance, and he's also having a lot of experience in conflict resolution around the world. He's an expert in conflict resolution. When we come back, we take a look at some of the other issues that we need to examine as Nigerians are generally craving for one indivisible, united Nigeria. How do we put the glue to get everybody together? Stay with us.
It is common knowledge that none of the promoters and foundation members of this great platform is new in Nigerian politics. As we assemble here today, many of us come from different political backgrounds, but we are bound together by a shared ideology, a meeting of minds, if you like, by persons identified for their character and integrity. Perhaps the question that will be agitating the minds of so many Nigerians will seek answers as to the reasons and rationale in founding yet another political party. There are, after all, more than 40 political parties on the register of Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, as well as many other applications before INEC awaiting registration as political parties. Our reason is simple. With the established political parties lacking any ideological anchor to unite well-meaning Nigerians, we concluded we needed a new platform to give room to new ideas, new alignments, new energy, and most of all, new pragmatic approaches to confronting national and political challenges. So many of the established political parties appear to be fixated with the recycling the same old leaders, repeating the same old rhetorics, and reabsorbing the same old moribund way of doing things. As against this new order, most existing political parties in Nigeria are fixated and set in these old ways, thus becoming a cul-de-sac of strange bedfellows with even more strange ideologies. The only point of convergence being the conquest of power and the sharing of the bounties of such conquest. It is for this reason that Nigerians witness high mobility of politicians, including those elected into elective offices, migrate from the political platforms they used in acquiring power to other political parties without any scruples in consideration for principles and morals. Similarly, most of the political parties in existence today conveniently attach progressive to their names, when indeed they are reactionary political parties in content and character, or at best, ultra-conservative political parties. Progressivism connotes regular positive change for the growth and development of the society, whereas some of these so-called political parties do not make any pretense about their resistance to change. The ongoing debate in the country today between those who support the implementation of the recommendations of the 2014 National Conference and those who are vehemently opposed to the outcome of that conference is a typical example here.
Thank you so much for staying with us on People's Politics and Power on Africa Independent Television. Dr. Paddy Njoku is my guest, and he has told us some stories relating to the very foundation of Nigeria, particularly at independence, flowing into the Civil War, and those gaps that were left behind by our leaders, our former leaders, our current leaders, and even the Nigerian Federation, which has resulted or have resulted in the throw-up of some of the agitations we have. We have a lot of people who miss up some of the people are calling for, say, can we go back to the table? Do we get back the various conference reports that we have had? This structure that we have, how do we go about it in such a way that everybody in Nigeria will have a sense of belonging?
Yes, I'm aware that people have been talking of restructuring. I'm also aware that some people are allergic to that word.
Some are talking about it,
Yes.
some are allergic.
Allergic, they don't even want to hear it at all. It frightens them. But I tell you that life is also a continuous process of restructuring. Okay?
Why are they frightened?
I don't know. The people who feel that they are going to lose out if there is restructuring the way they understand it, the way they perceive it, the way they imagine it, they are averse to it.
Now, can we do some definition here?
Yes.
What do you understand by restructuring?
Thank you. I was going to give you an example. I used to use a car, Infinity. One day I was coming from a wedding and I told the driver, no, it's showing red, enter the filling station. They entered the filling station, filled the tank, and they told me it is 21,000 naira. I said, oh my God. And I know the rate of consumption of that car. I managed to search myself everywhere and pay. The next week, I looked for money to buy a 407 Peugeot, small one. If I fill it with 7,500 naira,
It takes you for a week.
Exactly. I am restructuring my economy,
Your expenditure.
my lifestyle, my expenditure. Are you getting it? So, even you here, there are certain things you cut down on because it's no longer as it used to be. Now, As I told you, if we run 811 governments
In
Nigeria, all drawing money
from the same source.
from the same source, and that source is drying up, naturally everybody starts feeling uneasy. I mean, so when you talk of restructuring, people get unnecessarily agitated. TSA is restructuring. The Treasury single account, when they say, look, instead of one ministry having 47 accounts, we want all accounts now in one
Single account.
single account. That is a way of restructuring. Now, IPPIS that they use now in paying salaries, because when there was no IPPIS, there were too many ghost workers. And they brought this idea that, look, the central bank pays everybody through a central system. So no ghost enters that system now. It's restructuring. Now, I think you asked a very intelligent question. Have we told people what we really mean by restructuring?
Because it doesn't appear that everybody has his own definition. That was why I asked you.
Exactly.
Definition of restructuring.
Because my father told me that it is with food and drinks that you ask a one-eyed man how he lost his eye. If you come empty-handed and say, how did you lose your eye, he will also pierce your own eye and show you. So we need, like I said, dialogue is extremely important. And government should, as much as possible, embrace more dialogue. You see the acting president now going to meet people here and there and dialogue. And it takes off a lot of steam from people. So this restructuring, why don't we discuss it first? Define it before we reject it.
Now, I want us to hit the nail on the head. On
Yes.
This. When you say some people shiver when they hear restructuring,
Yes.
Obviously you are not referring to the Yoruba nation, because the Afenifere have said restructure, we must go. Obviously you are not referring to the Southeasterners, who are even going beyond restructuring to say we want to pull out. I mean, some elements.
Go ahead, yes, sir.
Some elements in the Southeast. You are probably not also referring to the South-South people who over the years have called for devolution of powers and resource control. Apparently, you are referring to the northern elements, where we have had an Abgo Abdullahi, a professor, a very strong leader, saying we are not comfortable with the word restructuring the way you are saying it. It is because we want you to help us develop up so that we can meet you up. Is it the north you are referring to?
No, let me tell you something. I did say here that the Nigerian structure has been created by fiat all the time.
Yes.
If you want to understand it this other way, take it that most of the people who were responsible for these creation by fiats do not want to see what they did undone in their lifetime. I don't know whether you're getting what I'm saying. People sat...
They are reluctant.
Yes, I mean, it's like the Berlin Conference, for example, where people sat around the table and divided Africa.
Partitioned Africa.
Partitioned Africa, the way they like. You take this chunk, you take this chunk, you take this chunk. If you call those people together today to say, no, redo what you did, they will say, no, we were right. It's happening in the Nigerian situation. The people, the area you are referring to, many of them, of course, naturally, by virtue of Nigerian history, participated in this partitioning which created these structures. And somehow for them it's working.
Are you not being simplistic about it? Is it not deeper than what you have just explained? Is it just because those who participated, who saw the military come and create government, does it not go down to deeper than what you are trying to explain?
It depends on your understanding. What did they create? They created entities that are now benefiting from this feeding bottle mentality that I told you about. We have created states that don't have IGR. And they're afraid that the moment you dismantle, they lose that benefit. This is what is causing the problem. And of course, you need to convince them that you could do much better.
Are you not surprised, sir?
Yes.
Are you not surprised that Apart from the northern leaders, some of the northern leaders,
Yes, some.
we also have, even in the southeast,
Yes.
in the southwest,
Yes.
and the south-south, what some people call the collaborators in the system, who the beneficiaries, those who are benefiting from this. Are you not surprised that they probably do not understand why this big elephant called Nigeria is not moving in the direction, and yet they are comfortable with their own preconceived positions?
When I told you that there's a list of plagues of Nigeria, plaguing the Nigerian nation, the thing is that some of these people who are benefiting from the unfortunate situation in which Nigeria finds itself would wish it should continue forever. This is the real truth. The people, the direct benefiters, no matter where they come from.
Are the politicians, are they, can we categorize them in politicians, those who are in the political office, the governors, those who want to be local government chairmen,
Naturally.
those who are ministers, and those who are
If
one
you
want to
tell
be
a governor
president?
tomorrow who want to dissolve your state, he will say on his dead body, because he will no longer be His Excellency the governor, which is used to being deciding he will lose it and so on and so forth. So the benefiters, the beneficiaries of this skewed system don't want it dismantled.
Now, just let's
Sorry,
use,
mind you, and there are too many people who are disadvantaged, especially the young ones, okay, who
cannot get a job.
can't
under
get
the
a job. I
under
mean,
the
I got
system.
a text this morning. Somebody told me he wants to commit suicide. That he finished since 2010, and up to now nothing. I know. Look, so such people who feel there's nothing to live for, okay, they too believe in this agitation. But I also have a caveat there, and I must say this is very important. Even if we restructure and create
Pockets of powers,
your own mini country for you tomorrow, as long as we haven't restructured the characters of the people who are going to run that enclave, you will still suffer.
I was actually coming there.
Okay.
Because we have to look at the solution as we are going to wind up now. What do we do with the Nigerian structure, the structure we have now? So many people are throwing in their suggestions. I've heard people talk about confederation. I've heard people talk about true federalism. I've heard people talk about reducing the size of government, like you also have suggested.
Yes.
That we don't need 36 states.
No.
We don't need 774 local government.
No.
We don't need the Senate and the House of Representatives, 360 members here. What do you think we should do? I mean, what steps do we take? What are the first steps we should take to be sure that this country, in the course of looking for the best approach, we don't inadvertently destroy ourselves?
Yeah, we must discuss. I am not comfortable with the people who are saying no discussion. One. Two, previous discussions, throw them away. No. In order to resolve any conflict, you must come together and discuss.
Have we not been discussing?
Well, there are issues you raised now. All these issues you raised, if people are averse to them, you must bring them close and use the force of argument and not the argument of force. What brought us to where we are is the argument of force. You must do this. With immediate effect, this state has been created. With immediate effect, this local government has been. Now that we see that it's difficult to carry, we must come together and discuss. In the course of the discussion, those things you now raised can come up. How do we handle resources? How do we make sure that the center is not starved? How do we make sure that those states that are not as endowed as others are taken care of so that they don't see this restructuring as a punishment? And of course, how many states can we carry? Should we multiply local governments? Should we leave the states to create their own local governments and take care of them so that it's no longer a headache of the federal government? Should we run a bicameral legislature? Do we need it? Do we need as many as 360
members in one chamber?
Of one chamber, 109 members of the other, and all this? Do we need all these ministries? You see, the president came for the president now. He started restructuring by putting
all the ministries
housing
together.
and
works
and the
power
together. They changed. I saw them, the signboard the other day. They've changed. And already it's working. Otherwise, if he didn't do that, we would have had 3 honorable ministers today, each calling drawing allowances, and mind you,
driving big
not only that, you see, one other thing that I see happening all over the country today is there will be a commissioner for information, there will be a minister of information, but then there will be SA, media and whatever publicity. Yes. There will be SA, then there will be senior special assistant, there will be special advisor. They are the ones you are talking with. The minister of information who is supposed to be informing you is on his own. And of course, if you get to his office, you see so many SAs and EAs and SSAs and PAs. And so we should, when we're talking about restructuring, these things should be looked at. Can we afford to be living a false life? This is the big question. I told you my story. And I said, you know, look at us. They invite us everywhere, every day. You're chairman of that, chief launcher. I tell them, I can't run a public life from a private pocket. That is restructuring. That is realism. So people should not put so much politics into it. Let us say how, we want to live as a nation, all right. What are the conditions? How do we live? Don't say no-go area, don't discuss. No. Even marriages
are discussed.
Yeah, that have produced very, very senior children. People come together from time to time to say, darling, the way we are going about this thing, I don't think it's right. Let's go about it this way. Huh? An old woman that has been in a marriage for 20 years, 20-something years, 30 years says, darling, I don't like the way you are going.
I think it's the divorce that is everybody is afraid of.
Yeah,
because it does also happen.
Good, but if you don't discuss, the divorce comes automatically. Okay? I tell you, I'm a mediator and conciliator. Yes. I handle a lot of even family problems like that. When you bring them and all those no-go areas that say you shouldn't discuss, by the time you finish, you empty them, you see that everybody's heart is now free and empty. They're
coming back united.
They come back like a new marriage, rejuvenated. And I think
certainly when the issues are not discussed, that divorce happens.
Naturally, naturally.
All right. Now we have to take a second break. Now we'll take a break and we'll be coming back shortly. Remember that we are talking about the federal structure and how it can indeed be done in such a way that we have one united, indivisible Nigeria with all the components happy within and everybody contributing positively to the development of the country. My guest remains. We'll be coming back shortly.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT. Join us to build bridges of unity.
Welcome back to the program, and we are still talking the questions, the big questions that are on, surrounded by a lot of debate, surrounded by a lot of suggestions, the question that is surrounded by a lot of opinion, some of them very, very wild, and some of them, some will say divisive, some say we should come to the table. And my guests, Paddy Njoku, believe that we need to talk. Now, we have had talks before, and we have political parties, all of them participating in the kind of structure that we currently have. What would be the position of political party in your dream Nigeria that has a restructured environment? What will be the role of political parties? How should political parties, because we are also having more political parties being registered in Nigeria today with, at the last count, we could have as many as over 100 before 2019. We wouldn't just know. What would be the place of politicians and political parties in a restructured Nigeria?
Thank you very much for that very important question. I, with due apology, the political parties have not inspired tremendous confidence in people who are not directly involved in these parties. Do you know why? There are no ideological divides. And so what is happening is what is called shifting cultivation in agriculture. Once you see where
the power block
is likely to be more fertile, you move over there. And as long as
will the restructure solve this problem?
Yes, if we should discuss it. But look, if you want to be a political party, you must have a clear ideology that must be registered, against which you will be questioned, against which your performance should be questioned. You'll see that like minds can then come together and say, this is what we believe in. But as long as it's an all-comers game, like you said, you get hundreds or 200 of political people, provided everybody has privileges and is answering Mr. Chairman and so on and so on. That does not take us 1 inch further to progress.
Now, your last take on this. How soon should we talk?
As soon as yesterday.
Dr. Paddy Njoku is the Director General of the International Institute for Leadership and Governance. He is also a qualified arbitrator,
mediator
and conciliator.
Yes.
And he has joined me to examine the structural questions that are thrown up in Nigeria by virtue of some of the many unresolved problems that have confronted Nigeria since independence. And on people's politics and power, we have the focus of Nigeria, the Nigerian project in focus, such that we can all begin to look forward to a greater understanding of our collective interests in Nigeria to make it greater and bigger and more beneficial to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on the program.
My brother, thank you. So and keep on doing the good job. What you are doing is nation building.
Thank you so much, sir.
Don't ever underrate it.
And that's how I'll take on the program. When we come back, we'll take another guest, and we will still be dealing with the issues of the way forward for Nigeria. Thanks for staying with us.